the offseason, a lot of conditioning from the guys. First of all, just how are you feeling that the defense is getting back into it?
Yeah, I think the first thing you notice is, man, the work these guys put in the summertime. And credit to Coach Pitt and his staff. You look at just the bodies and the way that the bodies have changed out there, looking physically. And I think that's exuding some confidence in our guys, which is great to see. Those guys, man, they work their tails off in the summertime and, man, going to hopefully be rewarded with it here in fall camp with the ability to be able to practice really, really hard because of where they're at in their conditioning level and be able to amp up a little bit of the intensity at times because, man, these guys were working so hard in the summertime, running, lifting, all of those things. So I think you're seeing it in a bunch of different ways. Our conditioning, man, our strength, the way the guys look, and then also just the confidence they're exuding when they're running out on the field.
Last year you implemented a new defense, started the 3-3-5. You had a bunch of returners that you had to teach that. How do you feel the change from year one now going into year two is running your scheme?
Yeah, I think the best part about it is it's less on the coaches coaching, and you're able to see our older guys coaching and bringing along some of the newer guys. And anytime you're able to do that, I think that's really, really exciting from the sense of, man, you got a bunch of older guys that have been in the system. This is a couple of times around for them now as far as the installs and all of those things go. So it's, man, fine-tuning the details of certain fits and certain coverages and all of those things. But, man, from a lining up, from a communication standpoint, from the older guys bringing the younger guys along, I think, man, we're light years ahead of where we were.
On the opposite side of that coin, you've got some new coaches underneath you this year. Just real quick rundown. Let's just go through them and talk about what they bring to the squad.
Yeah. So Coach Crawford, coaching the defensive line now. Coach Crawl, man, I met him in 2017. We were coaching together at the University of Indianapolis. We were both GAs there at the time. We were both working from about 6 a.m. till 9 o'clock at night. We'd go run, get in our car, and we'd drive Uber, and we would drive Lyft, rideshare, until about 11 or 12. We'd wake up the next day. Man, we'd do it all over again. That's a guy that's super detail-oriented. Man, he works at his craft. He works at the game really, really hard. And so it's awesome to have him on staff. He was in my wedding, certainly somebody I really, really trust. And you look at, man, our defensive line play right now and how those guys are playing and fundamentally where they are from, man, a year ago has been really great to see. Then we brought Isaiah Lee, who was a player when I was at Idaho State. And Isaiah was one of those guys that, man, when we were watching film as coaches and he was a player, he would come in and sit with the coaching staff and watch film with us. And I knew Isaiah had a passion and a desire to want to get into coaching. And he was a guy that was available to come help out. He's been in the system. He's felt it. And so I think he's been a great addition to the defensive line as well because, man, you got a guy that has really felt what does it feel like to feel a double team playing, Big 12 football. And so I think that's been really good for the guys as well.
Okay. Let's transition a little bit. You're not just the DC, you're also our linebackers coach. First of all, as the group as a whole, how are the linebackers looking coming out of summer conditioning into fall camp?
Yeah, I think, man, they're changing their bodies tremendously. You look at guys adding leaner muscle, man, changing the way that their body looks physically, changing their conditioning. And they're just guys that I really enjoy being around. And I think, man, we're in year two. They understand the expectations of what I'm expecting from them, but they also understand that, hey, I want dialogue and I want to be able to communicate with those guys and help them out as much as possible. So I think year two, the relationship, man, has continued to grow. It's been really, really cool to see the growth of those guys. We've got a bunch of veteran guys in there that have played a bunch of football for us, which is really exciting. Man, you look at Chris Sanchez, had a really good year for us last year, has continued to, man, bulk a little bit and still be able to move just as well, which has been great to see. Taylor Tuioti played a bunch of reps for us a year ago. Man, that guy's a leader. He's going to be a coach one day. He's a coach on the football field, super, super trusted with him. And then, man, Nathan Reynolds has continued to do a great job in changing his body and being able to communicate in the middle of the defense. And we always share with those guys, man, our ones are our twos are our ones, and we've got to really have 6 guys ready to play. We're going to play 6 to 8 guys guys at the linebacker position at any given time. And I think Adrian Rodriguez is another guy that's played a bunch of snaps for us. Man, he's a leader when he takes the field, really understands the defense. He's a student of the game, which is really, really cool. And you get Vi back this year, which would be great. Jagger Giles played a ton of football for us from a year ago. And then being able to add in, man, some new guys that body-wise, physically, look the part. We'll see what their ability is on the field as we kind of keep going, but I think we got a really, really good thing going there. And it's cool to have a bunch of local guys, man. You got Jacob Perez from Idaho Falls. You got Nathan Reynolds from Meridian. We brought in 2 or 3 freshmen from Idaho as well, which has been really good.
Like half of your linebacker squad are Idahoans.
Yep.
What's your recruiting philosophy, just about that?
Yeah. I think first off, you got to find people that fit culturally what we're trying to do here and who we think are going to be a good fit. I think as I've continued to find out more and more about the state of Idaho and the high school football here, man, there are talented guys. They're well coached. And a bunch of them, man, want to play here. And I think those are all things that are really, really important to it. We want to continue to recruit local. You're looking at Boise, you're looking at Idaho Falls, that kind of corridor all the way down. We would consider Salt Lake City to be local for us, just within proximity. So I think anytime you get a chance to get local guys, I think is a really good thing, and continuing to build that. And I want to be able to develop guys ultimately at the end of the day and be able to spend time with those guys and see their growth from coming in as a freshman until they leave when they're seniors.
What do you think was one of the bigger challenges that the squad faced last year, and what have you guys been doing to either remedy that or approach that in practice?
Yeah, I think anytime that you're bringing a new staff into a program, you're trying to find your footing a little bit in the sense of, hey, we've got to implement a new offense, we've got to implement a new defense. What do our guys do well? And then let's make adjustments to kind of fit that. And so I think just looking at that, reviewing that from a year ago, I think anytime you get the guys back in for another loop, when I interviewed for this job, one of the things I pointed to Coach Hawk was, man, there are a ton of juniors, how exciting this job was to be able to get your feet on the ground in year one and then be able to get all of those guys back through the program for a whole nother year. And I think that's the really, really exciting part when you look at how many seniors we're going to have. And back to your point of Idaho kids, man, you got – you look at the D-line, right? David Rao, Cortland Horton, Logan George, man, being able to add Louis Cresto, you got a bunch of Idaho guys up front for us as well, being able to trot those guys out on the field. So I think all of those things really exciting.
Okay, and then last question, asking this to everyone. Tomorrow we're interviewing Buddy Blevins. What can you tell me about Buddy? Yep. Coaching across the aisle from him, what are we seeing out of Buddy Blevins?
Yeah, Coach Blevins first is a great human being. Man, he's a great dad. My wife and I have been able to spend time with him and his wife, and to see him around their daughter Olivia is really, really cool. And Buddy's coming from he came from Ohio. He was at Central State. And so we had met kind of in passing and just really always thought highly of Buddy. Just, man, a heck of a football coach. You want to talk about detail and being detail oriented. He is that to a T, and he's just a great coach, man, a great connector with players and being able to develop relationships and all of those things. So I think it's been great to have him. I was fired up when we got him, just knowing who he was, the person that he was, and then continuing to get to know him has been really, really cool, just to see him, in the coaching setting, but then off of the coaching in the real world, I guess.